hug your kids. Just tonight, your sons, your daughters, just hug them tight. You never know what might happen. Children of Earth. 10 years late, but here we go, around to it. As I mentioned in an earlier video, I did. This year I finally got around to watching Torchwood Series 2. And I watched it through, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot more than Series 1. And I thought I was planning to do Children of Earth and Miracle Day maybe in 2020 when it came around, but then after watching through Smallville, I kind of thought to myself, yeah, Children of Earth is only 5 episodes. I can probably squeeze in Children of Earth. And oh boy. Well, I finally got around to watching it, and as I said, oh boy. I mean, I'd heard a lot of good things from various people about Children of Earth. I mean, when I personally looked up the videos on Children of Earth from people like Council of Geeks and Crew on the Sofa on YouTube, who I suggest check out the videos for, they're pretty good. But they claim that this is one of the best pieces of Torchwood, probably the best series of Torchwood, but that it's also one of the darkest pieces of the overall universe. And after watching it through, yeah, that pretty much is true. So the basic setup of it, you got the return of old favourites John Barrowman, Eve Miles and Gareth David Lloyd as Captain Jack Harkness, Gwen Cooper and Yanto Jones. Now, there was a question after the last series of, with the departures of Naoko Mori and Bern Gorman, of whether John, Eve and Gareth could truly carry the series on their own. But they, along with Kai Owen, they make this series. Now, the series goes that the plotline for this series goes that one day, just one ordinary day on planet Earth, every single child across the entire Earth stops. They stop for literally like a minute, but then they seem to carry on. But then later on they stop again, and they begin to speak, all in unison, saying, "We are coming." And this entire thing turns out to be from kind of an alien species simply referred to as the 456. And what the 456 want, what's eventually revealed that they want, is they want our children. They want 10% of all of Earth's children. And considering that there are something like 1,900,000,000 children on Earth, they effectively want 1,900,000. And that is rather frightening. And kind of everyone, I feel, when watching this particular story, everyone is going to have that one moment that just makes them feel sick to their stomachs. I mean, for some, it'll be when the 456 first demand the children. For some, it's going to be kind of towards the end when they're trying to protect their children at any cost. The mother's kind of screaming at the government for taking their children away. But essentially, everyone is kind of focused on Britain because that's where the 456 eventually have landed. But kind of the whole world is kind of looking towards us, and at the centre of it all is a politician named John Frobisher, a family man played by Peter Capaldi. This was after he appeared in Doctor Who as Caecilius, but long before, about 5 years before he became the 12th Doctor. And he is at the centre of all of this, even if he doesn't necessarily want to be. And he is trying to figure out a fair and impartial way of choosing which children are due to be sent to the 456. And I think in about part 5, when you actually find out what the 456 actually want the children for and what they're going to do with them, it's just sickening. I mean, this isn't like a thing of, we need the children to survive, we need them to maintain our form, we need them to keep on living or something, or we need them for our government, they're going to rule over our world. No, this is this is because, spoiler alert, they want the children because the children kind of create kind of chemicals and pheromones that they enjoy. They're effectively being used as a narcotic, and it's just sickening. I mean, for me, I think the moments where I truly felt sick to my stomach and felt this was truly one of the darkest pieces of the universe was in part 4, when the 456 had made their demands and Frobisher and most of the politicians and military gathered are trying to figure out an impartial way of choosing which children are due to be sacrificed. And as I said, that was the moment where I truly felt this had gone dark. I mean, when I've asked people about it, people have gone that this is a piece of the universe so dark that some people haven't actually watched it again. Like, they'll watch it once, but then feel it's so dark that they can't watch it again. Now, I personally am not a parent. At least not yet. I mean, I am part of a generation that is starting to become parents. I mean, some people in my generation are starting to go off and have their own kids, have their own families. I personally am not one yet. Maybe one day I will, but we'll see with that. But I imagine if I do become a parent someday, I feel that this set of episodes, it already hit me pretty hard, but yeah, I feel if I do ever become a parent someday, these will hit me even harder. And surprisingly, the politicians and the military men, when they're having to make these decisions, they're not, you can see they're not evil, it's just a terrible set of circumstances. But yeah, strangely enough, with Peter Capaldi in this episode as John Frobisher, it also reminds me of one of his lines as the 12th Doctor in Series 8, which was from Mummy on the Orient Express. Sometimes the only choices you have are bad ones, but you still have to choose. Frankly, that is more true nowadays than it has ever been. But to put a little bit of light into this slightly dour video, they did also introduce another celebrity who... There are some actors who are in Doctor Who they're big names, but then there are also some who you recognise, but then you don't realise that they've actually been in the wider universe. For me, for Torchwood Series 2, it was Matt Ryan. I hadn't realised he was actually in the universe, but when I found out it was him, I was like, yay! This time it was Katie Wicks, who... Some people may remember her from Lee Mack's sitcom Not Going Out, but she's a fairly big name, and in here she plays Ianto's sister, Rhiannon Davies, who has children of her own and wants to keep them safe, but she's also got a brother who's telling her to please keep your children safe, and she doesn't entirely understand what's going on, but it's rather heartbreaking. I mean, as I said, this is a piece of the universe that really you only need to see once in order for it to make an impact, and it truly did. But the last thing I'll give you is a quote from Gwen from the episode, which I personally feel hit very hard. This was shown briefly at the start of day 1, and then was shown again in day 5, and I think it solidifies everything. There's one thing I always wanted to ask Jack. Back in the old days, I wanted to know about that doctor of his. The man who appears out of nowhere and saves the world. Except sometimes he doesn't. In those times in history when there was no sign of him, I wanted to know why not. But I don't need to ask anymore. I know the answer now. Sometimes the doctor must look at the earth, turn his head in shame. And honestly, with our current situations, everything going on, I feel that's true now more than ever. So, Children of Earth. It is, I think, one of the darkest pieces of the overall universe, but it is also one of the best seasons of Torchwood. I will get around to Miracle Day at some point, but for now, I think I'll just let Children of Earth sink in. And just even sitting here now, I realise just how good, but also how terrible it all was. Anyway, until my next video, see ya.